Hey Reflections. So today we're going to be talking about an experience that I had, and I've had quite a few ego deaths in my time. I've had some major breakthroughs in psychedelics when I first started this channel, but since then I have become very sensitive, extrasensory, and I've had to lay off because it almost feels like life itself is a DMT trip, for me at least. So today we're going to be talking about ego death, my experience with it recently, and how I've had it. Now, usually I will have an ego death like in a psychedelic experience, but more recently it's been, I've been doing acid in my lucid dreams. I've been doing ayahuasca in my lucid dreams. I've been learning how to die in my lucid dreams, but for some reason I'm always afraid of death, and we're going to talk about that today, and that experience that actually changed that fear of death, which was basically confronting death. And I did that with water. So we're going to talk about the mystical and healing properties of water as well. Before we get started, I was just smudging the area. For a lot of people that have been asking me, what is a smudge stick? What do you do with one? You just light it on fire like this. And in my life in general, I've been using the elements more and more. So yeah, you basically bundle up some herbs, flowers if you want, like I have. This has rosemary, white sage, palo santo, flowers, roses, all of that good stuff, bundled up, and then you just dry it and then you clear the energy. So yeah, you could also find these on my Etsy shop. Yeah, I just did that. So anyway, let's get talking about the good stuff. Before I get started though, I kind of wanted to do a quick shout out to a reflection. Let's see, let me get to my emails. So I actually got a donation from a reflection, and he's also a photographer and a psychonaut, so go check out his work. He gave me a very awesome donation, and he wrote, "I feel like a cheapskate giving this little." What? You have a beautiful energy. Thank you for your videos. Thank you for sharing your soul with us all. Keep up the magnificent work. Alex from alexnason.com, and his Instagram handle is @anason. So go check them out. Go check out their artwork. What are you talking about? That's a huge amount to me. I am, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for everything. Nothing is too little, and don't think that like this is just a money grab here. Like, I am not one of those YouTubers that makes a lot of AdSense revenue. That's just not my case. So I put a lot of time and effort and money and all of that stuff into my art, into these videos, for a good experience for you guys, and the fact that you guys appreciate it and feel the love and feel the need to reciprocate through art that was inspired, by this channel through, I'm sweating balls because it's like 90 degrees and I have lights on me. And I was trying to wear a cute hoodie. Talk about ego. Still haven't melted all of that away. But anyway, let's get back to what I meant to say was thank you. All right. So anyway, now I wanted to talk about, before we get into ego death, before we get into all of that, I wanted to talk about a mystical experience that I had with water. Now, if you guys don't know, I had gone to India in 2016, I believe. And I was trying to find myself. I went to go visit a guru, and I'm not going to say any bad things about it, because when I went there, I saw everything for what it was, and I just saw it as kind of like this egoic thing, you know, and I was just like, huh, you know, and I had a few near egoic, let me explain. Basically, we were in a procession, right, to the Ganges, because that's why I went to India. Like, I was for real, like, I really wanted to, you know, have this enlightening experience, you know, and I went to India, and we were in this procession to these bodies of water. And this is why I talk about water, because like my first experience with water and the sacred element that is water was going to the Ganges, the river. And we would go to different rivers that were feminine. And on this trip to the body of water, I saw him constantly looking at himself, you know, like in the mirror. And I was just like, wow, that's for a spiritual person, you know, like, I mean, even when I look at myself in the viewfinder, guys, I'm just making sure that like I'm not sweating balls and like everything's, you know, in focus, because like sometimes it's out of focus. But I just picked up on that, and somebody had come in my ear when we were in this procession, and they said, you know, with all the money that you're giving your guru, he can buy 20 helicopters. And it just clicked, you know what I mean? So like, I'm not saying that there is not real spirituality in India. There is. It's just the most popular gurus, they are not gonna be it. So what I got out of that trip was realizing that I had to come back to America and do some DMT, which I did. So I got what I wanted out of this experience. That's why I have absolutely nothing horrible to say. But my first experience with water was at the Maharani Holkar temple. And this was in Indore. And this was after I left the guru. I was like, screw this, let's go somewhere else. And I had the most profound experience in a temple in Indore. And it was built by a queen. And this queen, she had a lot of money, and she built a temple surrounding the water, the Narmada River, and she built a temple in the river, like this, like it almost looked like a lingam yoni in the river. And I remember by accident I fell in, and as soon because the rocks were slick, and I fell in, and as soon as I fell in, I felt like laughing. I felt like I had meditated for like 10 years, you know, it was just amazing. So we decided to take, I went with friends, obviously, and it was so synchronistic. I met a whole bunch of people, you know, and it was amazing. And we went on this boat ride, and it felt like I had meditated for 100 years, and it was the most beautiful experience. So I always look back at water very fondly. So while I was in India, I had about 3 or 4 near-death experiences. Like, they were back to back to back to back to back. I believe there were 3. There was a tsunami. It was really bad. I literally thought I was going to die. So that near-death experience was just one in a synchronicity. Like that summer, literally I had, I think, 6 near-death experiences in India, in New York, in America, and it was really intense. So yeah, before I start talking about the ego death, I wanted to read this from a website that I found. It's called, the website's called humansandnature.org, and I will link it down below just so you guys can read it yourself. And it says, water is one of the mysterious gifts of nature that support and holds life on Earth. Many indigenous communities knew the values of water a long time ago, and to them water was considered to be the source of life. On the surface, water can be seen as food, a means of transport, a ground for recreation, or an element for cleansing, purification, initiation into cultural ceremonies. But a deeper analysis into the values of water reveal that water is a sacred being that holds life on Earth. A seed in the soil does not germinate until it receives water, which demonstrates that it is the spirit of water that ignites the production of life. In the past, water attracted the formation of commercial cities and towns along the lakes and coasts. Water transport facilitated the exploration of the world. In Africa, people recognized and respected bodies as their source of spirituality. The same in India. That's basically, they worship the water over there as well. For example, Lake Victoria, before it was named so by British officer John Hanning Speke, was called, and I might butcher this, I'm sorry in advance for anybody that's offended. Please don't be offended. I know the whole entire internet is offended these days. Nalu Bal, or Nalu Bale, I don't know, which literally means the home of spirituality. Bodies of water were owned and protected by communities, and people worshiped the spirit of water freely. All activities relating to water were conducted in accordance with people's customs and cultural beliefs. Sorry, that fire thing, that is not me. That's not in my apartment. I live in an apartment building. The introduction to Western civilization to Africa changed native people's attitudes and rights to water as a natural resource. The sacred relationship between people and water ended with new political governance. Water became a commodity to be taxed. Commercial fishing was introduced. Corporations were established to process and supply fresh water for payment. Western religious teachings demonized native cultural practices, and hence the indigenous attitude and moral responsibility towards water as a sacred being gradually changed. Religious teachings associated cultural beliefs and practices with Satan, primitivity, and in reaction, many native people adopted a new religion, language, and lifestyle. From a spiritual perspective, through a spiritual network, planet Earth is seen as an irregular ball immersed in water. If the sacred gift of Earth is life, then water is the custodian of life. Nearly all living things contain large amounts of water in their bodies. Water facilitates their functions. Atmospheric space, too, consists of elements of water in vapor or in gaseous form. Therefore, water is the reconnecting element between our materialistic life and the spiritual world. Man cannot be a co-creator without adherence to the fundamental phenomena of nature, and water is a major element to study and carefully handle. So there you go. I'm going to link you guys down below so you guys can read that for yourself. There's a whole bunch of knowledge that you could find on the internet. So now we're gonna talk about how this started. Let's see, got 14 minutes. I know that this records for 20 minutes, so if it cuts off in 20, then I'm gonna just restart. So now, the reason why I talk about why I've been gone and ego death and all of that stuff is because I literally feel like I'm dying every day. I know I'm laughing at that and I know it's nothing to laugh at, but I feel like I am so close to death every single day, and it's kind of terrifying and beautiful at the same time because I do have these very profound, deep, introspective ideas, you know, that surface, but to be riding the wave of death and psychosis, which I do on an everyday, you know, not every day, I would say weekly basis, which the shaman does, is really intense, you know. And when I first started this, you know, everything, when I first started all of this, I'll tell you, I had really, really bad self-esteem, you know, like, yeah, I was superficial, but it was all like false ego, you know what I mean? You know when people are super cocky, but on the inside they're broken? Yeah, that was me. I put off this persona or like image of being strong, you know, which I still do. Like, shitty things have happened in the past few years, you know, since I started this channel, and it's been really hard for me to find my voice and speak up because of the ego deaths that I've had constantly over and over and over and over in my past experiences, and constantly facing this death psychosis thing, which is the flip side of the Kundalini rising, which is why you see what you see right now, you know. And the reason why I put leave my old videos up to the dismay of, you know, other people online is because through that psychosis, that DMT psychosis that I had, through pain, you know, I found my purpose. Through destruction and chaos and pure insanity came this growth, you know, and that's why I keep it up. And I know if you look at my videos from the last one made to the first one made in that order, you will get really pissed at me. So don't do that. But the reason why I keep all of that up is to show the evolution and growth of, you know, the soul, of consciousness, of evolution. And sometimes it's beautiful and sometimes it's really hard to watch, you know, but it's real. And I thought that this journey was gonna be roses and, you know, everything was gonna be awesome and I was gonna just be, you know, meditating on this mountain. And the truth of the matter is that once you are truly awake, you know, like in that psychedelic experience that I had, my vision changed. So I could no longer see the same. And all that is seeing the destruction, the sadness, the real life, you know, suffering that we all deal with. And it's not, you know, it's not going to be this bed of roses. You know, when I finally chose to live authentically to me, you know, and just fuck society, fuck what my parents said, fuck what my friends said, fuck what my family said, and just did it and went with it, and then just like went in and finally, you know, able to live without caring about what society or culture thought of me, and just did me and started this channel and started living for me. That's when I disappointed the most people. I keep on getting really, I'm sorry, I get very emotional when I talk about these things because it's something that I still deal with, you know, and I'm sure the reason why I brought this up is because I'm sure you do too. I'm sure you do too. Because if I'm going through this, somebody else is going through this, and I made these videos so it could be relatable and make people feel that they weren't alone. Because for the longest time I felt so alone. And I felt like such a loser because I finally stopped being superficial. I finally stopped caring about, you know, my, you know, half of the reason why I wasn't able to do so much artwork is because half my time was spent really badly. yeah. And now, instead of like spending 10 hours on finding an outfit and hair and makeup, all of that goes into making art, making videos. Now, I thought that the reason why it was so hard for me to upload these videos was because, you know, it was an ego thing, right? To be at the top of any industry, you have to be narcissistic. You have to be, especially being a YouTuber and doing this every day the way I wanted to, you have to be narcissistic. You have to believe your own bullshit or your own delusion. You have to be self-important. You have to have the attention-seeking behavior, and I just can't do that. A lot of people think that, you know, these people online are all the same, but light workers, we do this because, camera cut off. We do this because we feel that we are part of something that is far greater than us, and we have a divine purpose. So when I do these videos, it's actually become harder for me because instead of wanting the attention, I am terrified of the attention. You know, it just, I don't know. It has the reverse effect on me. And it's become a lot harder to just speak my truth. So this video is very hard to do, and that's why I'm putting it out there, because it's necessary for my evolution. You know, I'm not really talking to anyone. I'm just speaking my experiences into the internet. So how did this ego death happen? So I want to first talk about, I don't think I'll be able to do the psychosis video today, only because this is going to be a long video. So what I will talk about is the first experience that I had with the water. I was in the shower and I had taken a little too much Ormus. Now I got cocky. I got super cocky, and it's so hot. I thought that I was going to be able to take a whole bunch of Ormus. I was like, I'm Quantum Kitty, you know, believing your own bullshit that will bite you in the ass all the time. Slow your roll. So what happened was, I took 7 drops of Ormus. 7 is a very powerful number. That's a number of source, and I don't think I was ready for it at that moment in time. And also I had a little bit of ego in me because I'm like, I'm Quantum Kitty, I could do this. Well, it basically served my ass to me. And I was in the shower and I was like, oh, I feel weird. I feel really weird. And then all of a sudden I felt the electricity in my brain, and I just felt my brain flip. And then I had clairaudience while I was thinking a thought. And I know a lot of people think that clairaudience is just, oh, you have, you know, a ringing ear. That's not it. That's not it at all, because when I have clairaudience, I feel like I'm on acid. When I close my eyes, sometimes I have visuals. And it's not just a ringing in the ear. I'm having some really deep downloads and thoughts in that time, and that's why I know it's not just tinnitus like some people say it is. And that was the first experience. I had to immediately, and this is why I say talk about superficiality, and people are superficial and everything, but in those states of psychosis or you know, your brain flipping. And again, I am not a medical professional, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, I'm none of that. This is my experience, and this is what works for me. I'm not giving anyone advice at all. This is just what I did for myself. And that is, and if you feel like you need to see a mental health professional, by all means, go for it. There's some people that actually need to. I know that I'm not one of those people. So, and I've been through therapists and doctors and gotten checked out, and everybody's just like, You're fine. So yeah, for some people they need to, but for me at least, I kind of like Dennis and Terence McKenna's perspective when they were doing mushrooms in La Chorrera. When Dennis McKenna took a little bit too much mushrooms, or he ate a lot because they didn't have a lot of food to eat over there. So they would eat mushrooms like they were food. And what happened was Dennis went a little too far. And he was terrifying everybody around him, and everybody was freaking out. And Terence had to just be like, hold off, and just holding back everybody, you know, just holding them back and letting him ride the wave. And he was like, it's okay, he'll be able to get through this, don't worry, he's fine. And they literally had to like fend them off from calling the authorities because he was literally losing his mind. Well, what I like to do is I like to ride that wave, and what happens, I use mantras. I am health, I am mental health, I am stability, I am, you know, I am strength, I am power. I do that, you know, I start having mantras. What I do is I start meditating. Sometimes meditation in those extreme experiences could be a little too intense. That's when the superficial thing comes in place. I know for a fact that that works, especially in high dose DMT experiences where you're just, it's been an hour and you're like, why am I still in DMT space? It's been like an hour. Well, what I do in those times is I put on the TV. Like really bad TV, really superficial TV, really, you know, like superficial YouTube videos, comedy, bad music, like really, you know, all of these superficial things that we're just like, oh, we're too good for that. We're too, those things actually help ground you when you are in those places of extreme chaos in your head and psychosis. At least for me, again, I'm not giving any advice. This is just works for me. So that was the first experience. The second experience was, okay, the ego death one. Now, this one was a very profound one because, again, I've had near-death experiences in India, over here when I almost got hit by a car, you know, like my life was flashing before my eyes, and I had these very extreme near-death experiences back to back to back to back. Then I have, you know, psychedelic experiences where I died in DMT and acid and mushrooms. You know, I've been there, done that. So it's just something that's like been a part of my life. Death and, you know, feeling like I'm always dying, you know, even recently as of like yesterday. So death is very familiar to me. And I've even started having these ego death experiences, not in my also in my everyday life, but in meditation as well. And I did this with the power of water. Now, granted, I had a Santa Muerte candle going, and I didn't know that it was a death candle, but that really did help. So what I did was, I don't have a spa, you know, I'm working with a little bit of money here. I used to be able to go to the spa all the time and, you know, get all this stuff done, but that's not the case anymore. I'm investing in this and, you know, other projects and, you know, doing a tarot deck and doing all this stuff, you know, that I need to invest in. So I'm like looking on Instagram, and I saw these beautiful flower baths and crystals and candles everywhere. And I was like, I have flowers, I have a bath, I have crystals, I have candles. Let me, you know, do this. And I did, and I've been taking them pretty regularly. And this experience I had was really profound. So I was in the bath and I had my candles going. I had my death Santa Muerte candle going, which I didn't know it was. And I had, you know, the crystals everywhere, and I had the binaural beats, the theta binaural beats going on. And it was beautiful, and I had my flowers in my bath, and I was just, you know, very relaxed. And the meditation started off with me forgetting my phone. That's the first thing you forget, technology. You're like, yeah, I don't care about my phone. And then the second thing you think about, you stop thinking about, are all of your problems, you know, all of the things that you thought you had to do, all of the projects that you have to do. You just let everything go, let everything go. And then you go into this place of no thought. And that's where I was. And I just stayed there in this peaceful, blissful, no thought space. And then slowly I drifted past that. And I was at that space where it's like that wipeout, you know, when the idea of you, you know, the idea of Samina, Quantum Kitty, the idea of you is no longer existent. You are gone. And as soon as I reached that point of complete annihilation, just disappearing like a dream, I realized at that point that this is how you're supposed to die. You know, there are two ways of dying. There's dying with understanding and acceptance and surrender. And this is what psychedelics teach you. You know, this is what my lucid dreams teach me. And it's like, I don't know why I'm still afraid. Like, I don't know why I was still afraid until that experience. And I thought to myself, this is how you're supposed to die. You know, there are two ways of dying, in fear and in love. Acceptance, surrender, and contraction, and, you know, just resistance. And I know when it's my time to go that, at least I know now, that when it's time, you just surrender. Surrender to the trip. And that was, I just started crying. Like, I get emotional every single time because it was such a beautiful experience, you know? And quite embarrassing, or I know I've cried on this channel before, but like, I just, every single time I think about the beauty that is death, you know, and the beauty that is life, I get very emotional. And I don't know, it's just, anyway, so that experience really taught me how it felt to just disappear out of, you know, you're still here, your essence is still here. You just become one with this, you know, the simulation. Just disappear and just fade away like a dream. And it taught me to live every single moment like it was my last, to be in gratitude for every single moment I have, and to use my time wisely, because I don't have a lot of time here, and I have an important job. Because like in the psychedelics, like they were basically telling me, grow the fuck up, you know, stop being so not confident, because a person without confidence, that's childish, you know. I was childish, my behavior was childish, and especially in DMT and acid, it was just like shaking me and waking me up so I could grow the fuck up, you know. And it's just, I just feel so blessed to be able to have that experience at 30 and not like 70, you know. That really does show you the power, you know, the power of the Kundalini energy. It's very powerful. It's destructive and chaotic, but it's powerful in its creation. And that's probably going to be another video as well. So the third experience that I had with water was Again, it was not a bath, but it was a shower, and I was just showering, whatever, and all of a sudden I started having these thoughts, and these thoughts were just like about somebody that had hurt me, and I was thinking about them, and I was thinking about something like a negative thought, and I had this clairaudience again. And it's really interesting how like I just have this clairaudience with water, and that's why I'm telling you guys, water. Water, start working with water, start understanding water, start, you know, communicating and just paying attention to water, because I've had some very profound experiences with water recently and also in the past. And basically what had happened was I was having clairaudience, and I just thought about what I was thinking, and I just said thank you. And as soon as I closed my eyes, I saw this geometry. This geometry with eyes. So yeah, it's been a really hard 2 years. It's been a very difficult few months, but I know that I'm not alone, and I've found purpose through pain. Every day I'm finding purpose through pain, and that's what keeps me going, you know, because without that connection, without any purpose, I can see how life can get a little down, you know. And this whole ego thing, it's been so difficult for me, guys. Like, and I also did a little social experiment where like I was like, okay, so maybe it's just this YouTube thing, and like I'm just fearful of it, and it's just because I put my face towards it. I put my persona in my face and everything. And what if I just, you know, did a social experiment and saw how it would affect me? Because what's happening is when you are using social media, you are getting these dopamine hits, and it's basically feeding into that biofeedback loop of validation, you know what I mean? And that's really scary. And you know, it preys on your mental health, on your self-worth, on validation, on comparing lives, and all of that stuff. And I thought, maybe it's just YouTube. What if I don't use my face and I just put my artwork up there? Will I still be getting the same dopamine hits? If I'm not making any money, you know, if I'm not, because I don't make any money off of Instagram. I mean, I make like $100 a year here, but that's besides the point. It's not about the money, but that's what I wanted to see. You know, would I receive the same dopamine hits if it was on something that didn't have my face, that I wasn't making money off of? And the answer is yes. You can still have ego. You could still have dopamine. You could still have that validation feedback loop. It could still prey on your mental health. And that's why I feel that I took a step back. It's really funny because you see people online that are like super self-important, and you know, they think that their opinion matters. And I'm like, wow, I want to be that person. I want to be that person. It's just like a struggle, you know. It's a constant struggle. I've done like 7 videos in the past 2-3 weeks. I haven't put any of them up, you know. So yeah, it's just that balance, you know, finding that balance is very hard. And for me at least, my mental health, my sanity is the most important thing to me. Everything else comes last, you know. So that's why I am the way I am. So anyway, reflections. If you guys resonated with that, if you guys have any experiences with water, if you guys have any ego death experiences, both natural, in meditation, in psychedelics even, please, you know, share your experiences. I am always interested in everybody else's experiences as well, because I know I'm not the only one going through this. You guys let me know in the DMs, which thank you. I'm very, very thankful for everything. I didn't even think that, you know, 100 people would watch, let alone over 2,000. So again, this is a very humbling experience, and I know that, you know, it's only up from here, and it's only growth and more love. Anyway, reflections, I hope you're having an awesome, awesome, awesome day.